morning, guys. It's time for a celebration this morning. Episode number 50. I can't believe how quickly that went. It's 6 or 7 months of podcast. We're at episode 50. Many more to come. I feel like the episodes are starting to, or the followings, downloads are starting to really snowball now. A lot of people reaching out for help. I'm actually checking a contract at the moment, so wanted me to take a look at. But yeah, today, very exciting. If you guys remember podcast number 1, we had Scott Cutter, owner of 2 Costa Rica Real Estate, down there in Manuel Antonio. He's going to be joining us for episode 50. I thought, what better way to celebrate 50 than get on Scott, which was our guest at number 1. Remember, he's the owner and also chief broker, I would say, for 2 Costa Rica Real Estate. They have offices all over Costa Rica, Playas del Coco, Santa Teresa, Jaco, Manuel Antonio, in the Central Valley, and also in Dominical area. So it's going to be a great conversation today. Remember, if you have any questions for me or need any help with anything, feel free to reach out to me. My email address is info@investingcostarica.com. That's info@investingcostarica.com. Let's get straight into it. Good morning, Scott. How are you doing?
Doing great, Richard. Great to be back with you, my friend.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming back. You were number 1. This is number 50, big number 50. I mean, 50 doesn't sound like a lot of podcasts, but I think if everybody knew all the time and effort that went into this, they'd understand is that it's probably, it's a lot of work.
Well, it's a tremendous amount of work. I'm stoked at 50. We're closer to my age, and I'm way better used to. I'm a lot more accustomed to being back in the middle of the pack at number 50 than number 1. So I'm gonna cling to my first podcast award with you, man. And I'm stoked to be back. I've been watching. I remember we did the first one, and I've been watching the views, the amount of interest, the complexities of what you guys are talking about. You've had a lot of amazing professionals on here, a lot of my colleagues and friends and people that I've met through your podcast. So I'll congratulate you and everybody that's had the honor of being on with you. And I'm stoked to be back and bore people for about an hour.
No, not at all. I appreciate it. Well, I think last time when we spoke was round about February time, and things had really started to pick up there because the country was closed until about November. Then it opened up, and it was going crazy there in, January, February, March. But give the user or the viewers an idea of what have the last 6 months been like for you? What trends have surprised you? And what emerging trends are surprising you?
Well, in my 26 years here, I can tell you that the last, 6 months have been the busiest, most dynamic, most surprising time in my real estate career in Costa Rica. It's difficult to say that COVID's a blessing with all the suffering and impact it's had on our tourism markets, on some of the major other economic drivers. But for a real estate agent, for a real estate broker, for an owner of a real estate firm, not only in Costa Rica, but globally, this has been an incredible blessing because it's helped reset the world and their priorities.
Yeah.
So I just came back from Scottsdale, Arizona. We were at a Who's Who in Luxury Real Estate conference. My brother and I have the honor of serving on their executive board of regents committee and their global advisory committee. And, I'm going to talk a little bit about the States and we'll bring it back to Costa Rica, but, real estate markets everywhere are at their lowest inventories they've seen in decades. Most real estate offices around the globe, or at least the United States and Canada right now, are carrying 25% of their normal listing inventory. They've seen 30 to 50% appreciation in most of their markets over the last year. As people have discovered mobility, as people have discovered the importance of lifestyle and being in a nice home, and people are also taking advantage of the fact that financing, at least in the United States and Canada, is incredibly inexpensive. So inexpensive capital with long-term locked in is allowing a lot of people to get into the game. And in general, Costa Rica, and I think it's important to talk about what's happened in the States and Canada, because I think that's a very important element of what's happening in Costa Rica. And so you're asking me what's happening here, as all of your guests are talking about. There's been a real buying frenzy in Costa Rica. My office isn't the only one doing well, and we're not an anomaly. Everyone is selling at an absorption rate that we haven't really seen since pre-2008 levels, and in many cases, I think it's even faster than that. And the interesting difference between the last boom real estate cycle we saw and what we're seeing now is it's not prospective investment. You know, in 2002 to 2007, it was all about double your money, buy now, flip later. It was like the real estate market in the States of buy this hot commodity because you're going to get rich doing it. And we certainly have people wanting to make good investments here, Richard, but 95% of our coastal buyer people are people that want to make good long-term investments, but they're investing in themselves. Yep. They're investing in their lifestyle. They're investing in wanting to be in Costa Rica, in the brand that is Costa Rica. And we have, you know, what I kind of call a perfect trilogy happening, which is Costa Rica, because values in most destination markets in the States, because they went up 40% and Costa Rica didn't go up 40%, our absorption's high.
Yep.
All these old real estate that didn't move for years and years and years has now been bought and sold, but we haven't seen spikes in values yet. So Costa Rica became a value again, which we hadn't been for 15 or 20 years. Two, you got to give Costa Rica credit. The brand that this country has stuck to, no artificial ingredients, essential Costa Rica, wellness, ecology, conservation, peace, space, natural beauty. They've had growing pains in getting this brand out there, but right now it resonates more in the world than any other destination brand that I'm aware of anywhere globally. And then you have that coupled with some financial markets that are bringing a lot of people down here. The stock market's at an all-time high. Yesterday, we didn't have I don't know when this is going to air, Richard. We had a smack in the face yesterday, but the fact that the stock market has been so strong and the real estate market's been so strong, a lot of savvy investors are saying, you know what? This is the time to sell high and invest in stable asset-backed markets that are going to be long plays, not short plays, because most of the smart money out there thinks that this is going to end sometime, whether it happens now, 6 months, a year. There's a lot of people that are going, I'm going to take equity out of my real estate in the States. I'm going to take some of my chips off the stock market table before we see continued contraction. Yep. So it's been really busy.
Well, I think you make some great points there. I mean, a lot of people that I look at, I speak to that are looking to buy or invest here in Costa Rica are doing it for a variety of different reasons. You know, some people just want what I call a get out of Dodge card. You know, they want to invest here, get residency just in case, you know, if the proverbial, you know, shit hits the fan. I think I can swear because kids don't listen to this. I don't think they do anyway. If they do,
well, I do, but they say shit, so it's okay.
Exactly. So, you know, if the shit hits the fan, they want a get out of Dodge, you know, kind of get out of Dodge card. Also, some people are looking again for more of a, you know, wealth diversification play from the US. You know, take some of their money off the table in the US, move it outside. And I think you make a great point there, which is into, you know, what is referred to as the Switzerland of the Central Americas, you know, from an investment point of view. But with all that branding of wellness and like, we don't have an army and 25% of the country being national parks and like environmental studies to build everything. People are like, Rich, it takes so long to get stuff done here. And I'm like, that's good, guys.
Well, yeah. It is, it's been painful. And that's one of the reasons why I think is that branding, you know, and you're a professional, I'm a professional. You think about branding and sometimes you want to follow the trends and you can get yourself all out there. The continuity of Costa Rica, which it sometimes makes it so difficult for people that are coming from fast-paced place where everything changes so quickly and is so efficient. It's really paying dividends now. And you hit a point that I didn't mention, which I think is really important. The amount of having just come from the States, and I've had a couple of trips there now that we've been able to travel a little bit more. And I'm going to be apolitical. It doesn't matter where you stand on the political spectrum. The level of tension in the States is so thick you can cut it with a knife. I mean, and so whether you are far left or far right or middle, the amount of people that are just tired of living in a pressure cooker of cauldron is really high. And I didn't mention that in my kind of intro with you, Richard, but I'm seeing a very important number of buyers who are in the F it stage going, life is too short. I'm tired of turning on my TV every morning. I want to go fish. I want to go do yoga. I want to go walk away. And that's true both in the United States and even more true in Canada. The Canadian response to COVID and how they've managed it, right or wrong, has created some really important pushback for some people. And I've had a big influx of Canadian people who were investing here who have now packed up and moved here.
Yeah. Well, and their borders aren't really even open yet, right? So, I mean, we're about to see that wave of investors come down here as well.
You're 100% right. These guys just said we're getting back is so hard. And that was really what saved us at the beginning. When we were talking at the beginning of COVID, we didn't get decimated with our real estate sales because we lived on people that actually were here when it started, borders shut down. They said, we'll ride it out. And there was a couple thousand, and again, none of us are managing massive marketplaces, anybody on the coast of Costa Rica. There were thousands of people that said, we'll just ride it out here.
Yep.
And those people went from ride it out for a month or two to, wow, this is a great lifestyle. Wow, I've got great high-speed connectivity here. I'm enjoying this lifestyle. And that 1 month to 6 month rental turned into, maybe I should buy something here. And a lot of them did.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, we're seeing more and more of that. I think it's going to continue. Let's change gears a little bit into kind of the area, just because, again, I think we mentioned this on a previous kind of podcast of, like, I mean, you live in the Manuel Antonio area. A lot of people listening to this podcast potentially maybe have not been. I mean, how would you describe the area and how would you describe the community that's there?
Great question. Yeah, it is my home. I've been in Costa Rica for 26 years. I've been living in Manuel Antonio that entire time. My brother and I have real estate offices that kind of span around the country, but this has always been my home base. To describe Manuel Antonio, it is an island. It is a unique. It's not an island, obviously. There's Costa Rica, by the way, anybody listening. I get that a lot. But it acts like an island. We have Costa Rica's smallest national park in Manuel Antonio. It's the most visited national park, with the exception from time to time of Poas Volcano, because they count the school buses that go there. But international tourism, it's the most visited national park. That is our southern border. So we're on the Central Pacific. The southern where the road ends is at the national park entry, and it's a stunning park, beautiful white sand beaches, tremendous biodiversity, hiking trails. But again, it's a boutique, small park. We have a 7-kilometer stretch of kind of mountain paved, it's paved road, but from there down to the community of Capos, where I manage a marina project here called Marina Pezvela. I'm their sales and development director here. And then you have the town of Capos. When I explain Manuel Antonio, it's gorgeous, but guess what? Everywhere in Costa Rica is gorgeous. So I'm not going to talk about, I will tell you, we have beautiful beaches and beautiful rainforest and stunning views and all of these great things, but so does Dominical and so does Guanacaste. I mean, everything's different in Costa Rica, but I haven't been many places in Costa Rica where I'm not overwhelmed by the beauty. So I'm just going to let listeners know we have all that same beauty that the whole country has. It's iconic. What really did it for me when I came here, and I drove down from Colorado and I started in Playa del Coco, and I said, I'm going to live here. And then I said, well, maybe I should check out one town. And I basically went to every town on the coast. When I got here, I found something that I discovered 26 years ago. And I think is still there, even though the area has changed, obviously, in the past couple of decades. But there's a very unique mix of a real local community here and a very vibrant expat, tourism-based global economy here. And I need that diversity. I have friends and clients that want to go live off-grid in stunning areas and are more Davy Crockett-like in their existence. And there's places in Costa Rica to explore that. I have other friends that need to be in more gated, sprawling, resort-like communities with really easy, super easy access and need to be in that resort-like setting. And I think for a lot of people, Costa Rica is always about a choice between luxury or authenticity. And 25 years ago, you had to make that decision. Do I want to have a Costa Rican experience, which meant, shit, it's going to be uncomfortable, but it's going to be real authentic? Or do I want a luxury experience, which meant, okay, I'm going to go to a resort that might be like a resort in Florida or in other parts of the world, but at least it's in Costa Rica. And Manuel Antonio, when I got here, represented a fusion of the two. My wife was born and raised in Capos. I've raised my kids here. On a weekend, one night, I'm out with guys that are taxi drivers and tour guides and that have, rice farms and are very much local people. And I'm in a very local setting.
Yeah.
And the next night I could be, eating steak and drinking French wine with friends and tourists, people from Italy, from all over the world. And that duality is really what has kept me here. I need a local vibe and a vocal feel. And I think people that are attracted to Manuel Antonio, Richard, thrive on that. They thrive on its imperfection because they associate that imperfection with a sense of authenticity. The people that don't like it here get turned off by the fact that we do have I won't say a hodgepodge, but there's a hodgepodge of, wow, everybody loves this. That's an old kind of rundown little town.
Yep.
And I love that. So from a lifestyle standpoint, I think you got really amazing natural beauty. We've got a community of about 15,000 full-time local Costa Ricans that were here before the tourists got here. And then I've got a really good, robust expat population. From a real estate standpoint, why Manuel Antonio? It's really simple for me. I have yet to see a more pure supply and demand dynamic anywhere in Costa Rica and maybe anywhere else in Central America. It's just really simple to understand.
No, I agree. I mean, I think, from a travel perspective, we send more business to Manuel Antonio as a coastal area than anywhere else in Costa Rica. Why? Because it has everything. Again, it has that beautiful rainforest hitting beaches that people really see like what Costa Rica is, with all the monkeys, and all the toucans and all the wildlife that they want to see, while having all the benefits of kind of the first world there are clinics, there are hospitals, there are supermarkets, there are great restaurants, there are fantastic hotels, no large resorts, everything's very boutique. Like I think you said it there, it's a boutique destination.
Yeah, well, it took me about 30 minutes to get that out. I appreciate you summarizing that.
No worries. I mean, again, everyone that I speak to listens to the podcast was like, dude, I love the information that Scott gave us. So I think it's great info. And
when you hit on that point, Richard, which is as a tourist, as a travel, and so much of the coastal investment here, again, we talk about the lifestyle and the beauty, but and we'll talk about the nuances of the kind of people coming, but it's not for everybody. There are people that they want to be at a golf resort. They need to be 20 minutes from international airport. And there's great news as Costa Rica offers that. But the people that galvanize here at all levels of wealth. And it's interesting, I got a guy that is coming here, and I got a couple of clients that have, $8 to $10 million boats, that have multi-million-dollar homes, and they go, Scott, the reason we're here and not in other places where they could have their boat in the Four Seasons Marina or up in Los Sueños, they go, the reason we're here is we love to walk out and be a part of this community. We're leaving South Florida to get away from keeping up with the Jones mentality, and they thrive on what we'll talk about here is kind of like a good human friction. They love to be in a restaurant and know that guy's a billionaire. That's my gardener. There's my first mate, and we're all breaking bread in the same spaces. Yep. But you also mentioned from a travel perspective, and a guy that has so many years of experience sending tourists, you can do just about everything in Costa Rica that you'd want to do, with the exception of golf and a volcano, within about 15 minutes from here. So because getting around Costa Rica is hard, and I know you've dealt with it in the travel industry, where you get someone that says, Scott, hey, Rich, I'm going to come. We want to go the first night in San Jose, the second night in Arenal, the third night in Monteverde, the fourth night in Tamarindo, because they look on a map and go, it's 50 miles away. Yep. And you go, you're going to kill yourself. And Manuel Antonio is a place you can tell people, look, go to the volcano for a night or two, sit in the hot springs, get a massage, do that stuff. And then you can just go to Manuel Antonio, check in, and everything you want to do. Yep. The canopy tour, the horseback tour, the beach day, the massage day, the waterfall trip, you can do it all there. And you're going to save yourself 20 hours in the car.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's like, I think that's what, people need to understand with Costa Rica. Not all roads are paved here. The main ones are. But I like it when they're not paved, because again, sometimes it does keep people away and stops development happening, so quickly, and it keeps that authenticity of Costa Rica. But like, again, things don't move here as quickly, but nothing's a straight line here. Costa Rica does not do straight lines, in anything. And you just need to be aware of that when you come here, of like, you're just going to have to, life's a little slower here. You have to be a little bit more patient, and basically just make sure you got a great network.
You're right. Bad road is bad road. I have a saying, bad road, good people.
Yep. 100%.
The harder it is to get to a place, sometimes the nicer it is once you get there. And that's, it's talking about real estate, that's really, we're going to talk about some other questions in Roger, but that's a really important question. You'll get people, I'm sure, that ask you and ask me, what's the best investment? What should you do? And the reality is, because Costa Rica is small, but is so different, you really need to encourage people. And we talked about this on our first podcast, macro to micro. Why are you investing and who are you? What's the best investment for me would be lunacy for my parents, might be way too overdeveloped or easy for some of my buddies from rural Colorado that want to be, down in Drake. So the key is really recognizing that. But, for me, Manuel Antonio, I wanted to have a family, want to have business. I thrive on speaking Spanish and being part of a real Costa Rican community, and my ability to take some of the success from business and invest in the community and sponsor athletes and do public works and be a part of philanthropy, et cetera. I really thrive on that. And then for my investors and clients, knowing that it is one of the top tourist destinations, and you're not competing with, the total number of luxury condos in this marketplace, total in all the projects, is under 50. Our biggest hotel is 140 rooms, and you jump to 110, and most of the hotels are 50 rooms or under. And so to have such a high demand park, high demand marina, and knowing that you're competing, again, if you start to talk about investment, and we can maybe segue into some of those discussions, Richard, it's all about supply and demand anywhere in the world, anywhere you go. And so what I encourage people as they travel around Costa Rica, get confused because you see best deal, next hot spot. You just got to go to a place and say, how much dirt is there? How many people are coming? How many homes and keys are there now? How many can be built there over the next years? And how does my piece of that fit into a pure supply and demand market? And I don't know if there's anywhere in Costa Rica that has a better pure supply and demand than this. And I at least haven't found it. There's places that are hotter, whose prices have gone higher, et cetera. But I think it's a really good question for any investor to make sure they get off the ether and look at kind of the fundamentals which drive New York real estate and Toronto real estate and Costa Rican real estate and Arizona real estate. It's all about that.
I agree. Someone said to me the other day, we were looking at a project. I was with a guy from San Francisco who was looking to do a kind of luxury kind of surf cabin shack style project here. And I showed him a project that had been done before. And the owner of that project said, look, the cost to construct is the same anywhere. So why would you not put it in an area, pay for the land, because you're going to get that return so quickly on nightly return, like rentals, that you shouldn't even be worrying about the cost of the land, because you can buy land here at 150,000 or over here for 300,000. But like that 150,000, you'll get that return in under a year, So I think people need to understand that it costs the same to build anywhere in Costa Rica, really. Like the cost of construction does not vary that much. So it's a supply and demand and the cost of the actual dirt that you're buying, if you're building, of course.
Well, and you start to think about that. I had a really savvy guy. I'd never thought about it that way, Richard. And I had a very savvy client that looked, he said, Scott, for me to pay an extra $150,000 for this piece of land, and we were actually looking at a $200,000 price difference. He said, how many beds am I going to have? And how much more do I got to charge per night over 10 years to get that? And it was like, God, I could charge $1 a night more. And I'm going to get that. And the reality is you could probably charge $30 a night more by being here versus there. And that would pay it off so fast. And it was an insightful way to look at things. That's a good point you made.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, I mean, a lot of people are contacting me wanting to invest. They're like, I've got to get down there. I've got to invest. Like some people are just like, hey, Rich, can I give them money to kind of buy something? And I'm like, look, guys, number one, come down and see. The idea of buying something when you've never been to the country before, don't ever do that, please. Don't ever do that. Do you think people should be rushing in and diving and investing in buying in Costa Rica? I mean, what is your viewpoint on that?
My general view is don't rush to do anything here. We are not the velocity of our marketplace isn't what people are used to in the United States and Canada. Right now, most realtors in the States are doing sales. They're multiple above asking price bids on any sale place. And so that cultural norm of, a house came for sale, it sells in 3 days, we have an open house, there's 65 people there, there's 8 bids, I paid 11% over asking. creates an environment where maybe less honest investors and developers harp on that urgency that exists in US markets and in Canadian markets and in some other destination markets, and says you got to do the same here. I think it's important in a cash market, and Costa Rica is basically a cash market. We're seeing urgency. We're seeing a high volume of sales take place. But typically you don't have multiple bids on properties. And again, my advice, echoing what you said, is make sure you're educated and love everything about Costa Rica. The horror stories I hear are usually about people that, when I hear why they don't like it, I go, who was your agent? And how long did you educate yourself on this? Because they're obvious norms. It takes so long at the bank. This takes long. Yeah, no shit.
Yeah.
Who did your research for you? And so to make an investment here and then want to sell and get out and have your reason for wanting to get out to be basic, obvious norms of the country, to me is reckless. No, I do think, Richard, that we are in a time where you can certainly have analysis paralysis and miss good options.
I agree. I've seen it.
You start with Costa Rica and make sure this is a country whose macro level culture, setting, destination, accessibility, political, socioeconomic levels attract you and work for you. And that's easy to do. Then I'm a huge believer, shop macro to micro. We're blessed to have offices in Playas del Coco and Santa Teresa and Jaco and Manuel Antonio and Dominical and Escazú. And they're very different marketplaces. The most common thing I get is a guy that says, Scott, coming down, I got 4 listings I want to see in Tamarindo. I got 3 in Papagayo, 2 in Santa Teresa, 1 in Manuel Antonio, and 3 in Dominical. What do you think's best? And I go, dear God, it's all Costa Rica, but those are all really unique lifestyle destinations, et cetera. And while things are going up in value now, are up rate with the capital gains taxes that exist in Costa Rica now, and what it's going to cost you to sell, closing costs, realtor fees, et cetera. You need to see a 15% appreciation to make money on what you're purchasing, because it's going to cost you about 7 to 10% to sell, and then you're going to have a capital gains tax. Getting out, breaking even's about a 10 to 15% appreciation scheme. And that's going to take time because our markets aren't driven by 2.9% fixed 30-year mortgages where 100 grand gets me to $1 million property. So I do think you got to go macro to micro. I think that once you've found a destination, and I highly recommend, find a realtor that you trust. The days of realtors, one of the really good things, this wasn't in our kind of discussion points, Richard, but one of the great things about this robust market is the days of realtors only wanting to show their listings and not collaborating and cover their bases are over. I'm on 8 chat groups right now that are just realtors going, I got a client, he has $500,000. These are his parameters. What do you got?
Yep.
That never happened. 5 years ago, agents had people in their cars going, they driving by other realtors' signs. Certainly not my team, but I know a lot of people who were, well, I don't want to give you exclusivity because the other realtors won't show the property if I'm listed with you.
Yeah.
It was a crazy, greedy, poor-minded real estate. Not all realtors, and most of the people on your podcast certainly don't fall in this, but you and I both know that existed. One of the great things that's come out of this is you're going to get everything. We don't have an MLS in Costa Rica. And so this realtor collaboration in a market that's moving so quick, now realtors reach out to everybody because they want to make sure they take care of the client. So what I'd say is Costa Rica, find an area, find a professional that you connect with, that you trust, that has your best interests at heart, and empower them to do all the work for you. Because if you've already identified where you want to be, then, and your question was about urgency. If you've done that macro to micro level work, then yes, when a good opportunity comes across your plate in the area that you've already identified, do not miss it. It's going to sell.
Yep.
And we don't have massive development here for all the things that you talked about. There's not 1,000 new homes coming on the line in Costa Rica. Yeah. So we're moving into that inventory shortage. So I would say, no, you shouldn't buy sight unseen. No, you shouldn't run with your hair on fire to invest. But if you've gone through those, and it's not months, if you've gone through the weeks or months or whatever time it takes you to get to say, I want to be in Santa Teresa, I want to be in Playas del Coco, I want to be in the Manuel Antonio, or I want to be in Dominical. If you're there,
Yep.
empower someone, and then definitely don't drag your feet, because today's purchase options will not be there tomorrow.
I think that's great advice. I think it's really about educating the individual, making sure that you find the right destination. And once you do, pull the trigger and pull it quickly if you find something that really suits, what it is that you're looking for. I mean, I see so many people. I had some guys I was with, and they were looking at Santa Teresa and Manzanillo, and they were just like, we just got priced out because we took our time. We just didn't see this. So, I mean, they ended up moving over towards like the Malpais Cabuya area. But thank God they found the piece and they moved quickly on it once they did get it. So,
and sometimes that's a learning curve. It's like, you got to drink. Everyone tells you don't drink too much, and you got to do it. And then you're like, oh, that's why they said stop at that point. And so some people have to go through missing a property or two.
Yep.
And you don't want to be an I told you so realtor. But now we're in that marketplace where you say, listen, if you're a realtor, or if you're working with a professional that takes it seriously and takes the honor and the opportunity to really be comprehensive for you, then trust them. And when they say, this is a deal and you better move on it, they probably mean it. And just beware of the person that says that to you. And it's probably a good litmus test for a realtor. Beware of the person that says that to you without having any clue about what your parameters are. If you pick up a phone call or email a guy and they go, oh my God, my hair's on fire, this is the best deal, you got to buy it right now, without ever taking the time to speak to you, email with you, understand what your goals and vision are, then you got someone that's taking advantage of a marketplace and trying to create urgency, which might very well be true, but it's reckless use of a marketplace, which allows them to do that.
I agree. Well, let's switch gears a bit, because, I had one of the listeners a while back was like, Rich, can you ask the realtors what listings that they have at the moment, that they personally would buy and why? So I have to include this in here. A big shout out to Joe, who told me to ask this. So I thought I'd ask it to you.
Well, Joe, the first answer is I bought them already. So, one of the things that's a really great indicator of a realtor and what the best listing is, are they investing in their areas, or are they just selling the dream to somebody else? So for me in this marketplace, I just bought multiple lots here to build homes. I've been here for 26 years. I've built multiple homes. I didn't do it for a long time. There wasn't enough equity. Our market was really stagnant. Home prices were between 5 and 10% for a 10-year run. There just wasn't the upside. And about 6 months ago, I bought 2 lots in a gated community with the idea of bringing product to market. So in this marketplace in Manuel Antonio specifically, I think there's 2 really great opportunities. And I'll talk about specifics in a second, but I think there's great opportunities in older homes that are going to take real vision and remodel. One of the things that's very common here is people are coming to buy a dream. So walking into the rotted 25-year-old roof and old kitchen, and why is there only cold water in the shower, for most North American investors is like, what? That ain't my dream.
I see opportunity when I hear that.
There's real opportunity there. And especially in marketplaces where you have a finite, like Manuel Antonio, I got 7 kilometers of road. I can put you in my car, anybody, and in 2 hours, I can drive you down every road. And while you won't see every property, in 2 hours, you'll go, I got my arms around this place. Really, I know where everything is. So look for fixer-uppers, have the vision. 99, in the United States, people don't have vision. And when you combine, people look at the wall and go, Scott, this place is painted really ugly. I'm like, yeah, it's paint. And they go, but I hate that brown. I'm like, it's paint. But people don't have vision. And then when you apply, I don't have vision, or most people don't have vision, and a foreign country, there's real opportunity in being in that unique marketplace. And also look at what's out there and is new. In Manuel Antonio right now, I think building is a very real opportunity. If you walked into my office right now and said, Scott, I got $1 million cash. I want a ocean view, beautiful home. And you should be able to get that. And right now I'd say fixer upper or double your budget. And to me, that goes, well, wait a minute, there's opportunity. Are there lots for sale? And there are, where I can get an ocean view for $250,000 or $350,000 or $400,000. If $1 million isn't getting me a brand new, nice luxury home, well, if at $400,000 still allows you to come and bring something new to the market that you're not going to sell at $1 million, but is a good opportunity. In terms of specific listings right now, there's a couple I like a lot. I have a house called Villa Cielo Dulce. It's listed at $1.2 million. 2.5 right now. Private, amazing views, very solid, ultra modern architecture. Only downsides, very steep access, and it's a 25-year-old home, so it needs to be renovated. But its location, the amount of privacy it has, the bones, which are solid concrete. This house has 40-meter long almond wood ceiling beams that you need 2 cranes to move them. It's got great modern bones, and it's a property that I think, if it could be bought at the right price, and I think there's probably some seller motivation there, someone could spend $300,000 to $400,000 there and end up with a $2 to $3 million villa. There's big upside in that, but it's a big entry level price, and it's a big remodel. It's one of my favorite properties. I have a couple of hotel properties here as well that, and again, another thing, they don't have the big ocean views, but I have 2 unlisted properties that aren't on my website because they don't want to affect the operations, that are $1.8 million to $2.5 million hotel and commercial mixes. Because so many investors here want a 4-bedroom beachfront ocean view home with a pool. It's such a sexy postcard ownership. So, the penthouse in Manhattan or the apartment building with 40 units, it's way sexier to say I own the penthouse. Those 40 apartments might make better financial sense. And I've got 2 different hotel properties here that have good mixed use, where you could probably generate $60,000 to $80,000 a year in passive commercial income, just leasing restaurant space, commercial space on the road front, still retaining a 15 to 20 unit hotel component that you can run for things that are priced where you start to look, these are going to be 12 to 14% return properties, and they have development land that you could add more to. But I love the diversity of those. So those are some of my favorites right now.
Awesome. Well, I think you make a good point on the hotels there, just because a lot of the time, people are like, hey, Rich, I'm thinking about doing a 6 to 8 room hotel. And I'm like, you're never going to make money unless you're operating it yourself. So, once you get up to that 15, 20 rooms, 25 rooms with space to expand, you're really hitting the sweet spot there, because your fixed cost, your variable costs are very minimal and your fixed costs stay the same, because to have maids at 10 and have maids at 20 really doesn't impact that much. Your front desk staff is the same. Your restaurant staff is the same. Like, it's that cost stays the same.
And I like the mix of, I love having commercial passive income that diversifies. Look, to talk about hotel investment, and it's another very common thing right now. There's been waves of large hotel capital funds going, I want to buy hotels for pennies on the dollar because COVID devastated the hotel business. And if anything, hotel prices in most coast areas went up because they went from getting 1 inquiry every 6 months for their hotel to getting 6 inquiries every 2 days for their hotel. So hotel owners got bullish. The Costa Rican government came to the rescue of the tourism industries and said, you can put your employees on hold, you can put your payments on hold, and they allowed them to weather COVID without really feeling the pain. There are a couple of places that felt that they get hurt worse than others, but most hotel owners got enough relief that they survived. And guess what? This isn't true around the world. You see the figures. Liberia airport stats, June, July, August, they were 2019 levels. San Jose's 80% of 2019 levels. And we're just now coming out of the pandemic. But for a country and for a tourism economy, which the pockets of it are the smaller mom and pops that maybe don't qualify, that got it a little bit over their head. But in general, the hotel opportunities aren't in the big, sexy beachfront, massive hotels. Those pricing numbers right now are in most cases offering 4-5% returns. But anytime I can find a hotel that has a diversified income streams that helps to hedge against peaks and valleys of high and low season, and can offer a potential 10 to 12% returns, I take attention.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And, I was just thinking there about the San Jose traffic. Liberia traffic, yes, back to 2019, San Jose, potentially not, because business, a lot of those business travelers came in as tourists. So I would say that, San Jose's arrivals were just as good, if not better, than they were in 2019. And we saw it in our numbers.
I didn't even think about that. That's a great point.
We saw it in our numbers. So, again, Costa Rica is on a great growth pattern at the moment. And I think from all aspects, I think it's sustainable, but I think you make a great point there, which was a point earlier that, there's not that much stuff there's not that much new stuff on the market at the moment. If you're going to be doing something, probably the best stuff to do is to buy a fixer upper or to build yourself. Somebody asked me for advice the other day. They put an offer on the house. They didn't get it. It was like a $1.7 million home. I was like, well, why don't you just buy a lot for 300,000? Because 1.4 million gets you a lot of home, guys.
Well, and again, my real estate cycle, when I first started doing real estate in Manuel Antonio, I sold 80% lots, 20% finished homes. Because I'd look at the home and go, that's $1.2 million. And I look, as a realtor, I'd rather sell you the $1.2 million. Trust me, please buy it. Yeah. But if the lot next door is $150, you can get, and I tell them, they go, well, is construction hard? I go, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare in Dallas. It's a nightmare in Houston. It's a nightmare in Atlanta. And it's not real, but it's hard work and it's stressful. And the reality is, I've built 4 homes. I've remodeled 2. Every time I build one, at the end of it, my wife goes, we're never building again. And then I sell it and I get a 30% return or an 80% return or a 50% return. And I go, sorry, we're going to build again, because it is a little bit of work, but there's a return on that stress. It's gotten a lot better in Costa Rica. The building quality, the level of sophistication in builders has gotten a lot better. And I think that, again, what you want to beware of is people that tell you everything's easy. It's not easy, but guess what? If you can get a brand new home built to your specs for the same price or less than what a 10-year-old home's being sold for, that work is paid back with a level of product, and it's usually equity and a quality of experience long-term. And I think the next 5 years in Costa Rica, because we don't have, again, a lot of the markets in the States that you could use as comparables, there's tract home builders. Yeah. So this guy's going to bring 60 new homes to the market, and here's the golf course. And so they flood the market with inventory, with the exception of a couple of development projects where there's a lot of home building going on. Pinilla's got a lot of home building going on. There's a couple of resort communities that will bring, but the new resort communities coming on in Guanacaste that are in the works now, they're bringing $800 to $900 a square foot pricing to them. They're going to come to the market with new stuff. It isn't going to be for the average buyer.
No. And I think there's going to be a huge gap in the market, Scott, there for the $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 homes, because it's so difficult at the moment, Yeah,
right now, I think there's that lower end marketplace, which certainly, and again, lower end, it's where I'd be buying. But I mean, I think that marketplace of 150 to 350 in prime destinations that give people what they want, which is enough space to explore. Very few people are coming to Costa Rica to go, I want to just sit in my air conditioned apartment. Yep. And there's a lucky 1%ers that can end up having these big, audacious, amazing hotels. But in the development sector, I know in Manuel Antonio, it pains me that if somebody came in here with $250,000 cash, that I can't offer them anything that's exciting. And I think that represents a market niche that's going to be there. I think there's also a real big market niche in the 500 or 400 to 750 range. Because I think people tend to go spectrums. I'll go low end, I'll build super high end. And they forget that there's a really big baby boomer retirement middle market that wants good product. The spec homes I'm building here, there'll be 3 bedroom, 3 bath, a fun bunk room for the kids, pool, garage, good sizes, but not overly sized, 2,200 square feet. And I hope to bring something to the market in the 550 to 650 range. And I've got realistic expectations on returns. If I could make a 25 to 35% return in a year on my money, I'm ecstatic. And that's another thing that I encourage investors. If you can double your money, great. But spec home builders in the States don't expect to double their money on every house. Yep. And so grounding people's expectations to say, if you can have a 20 to 30% equity upside, that's massive victory. And you can get that now by building in most places of Costa Rica without even the market getting better. That's just what's out there today. Yeah.
No, I mean, I agree. I mean, I think that there are these tracks in the market that need product. And I mean, every destination is different with regards to that as well. Like 250 in Coco, you can get something. 250 Manuel Antonio, you can't. But you go 45 minutes, an hour up the road to Jaco, and 250, you can get something, But I mean, I think it just comes down to is Manuel Antonio is basically Costa Rica's #1 tourist destination. Sure. And I say that, guys, number one tourist destination. Costa Rica is not developed. Like, you know, I think the biggest beach town here is either going to be Jaco or Tamarindo, right from a beach town area. And it's maybe what, a kilometer long, a kilometer and a half by like 4 blocks back at most. I mean, it's tiny.
Well, that's a, you know, you hit a real good point too, is that, and I had a very savvy investor that came and we had some discussions, which is when you talk to old timers, and a lot of people like to go, that guy's been here for 20 years. I talked to the bartender. I talked to this guy. Perspectives from expats that have been here for a long time can be incredibly insightful.
Yep.
But they can also be incredibly jading, because people that were coming here, the average profile tourist and investor that came here 20 or 30 years ago is totally different. And a lot of my old buddies that were in Manuel Antonio in the mid 80s or mid 90s when I came here are selling out because, it's too developed. And the investors coming in are coming and they're going, it's just developed enough for me to consider coming here on vacation and spending time with my family. And they're, neither one of them is right or wrong. It's just this, it's this generational profile gap. And one of the things that I used to grow up going to South Florida, Richard, to the beaches in what I call the Redneck Riviera, 30A, Destin, Sandestin, Jack's Beach, Seaside. If you ever watched the Truman Show, these idyllic little towns. And when I'd go to those places 15 years ago, I'm in Costa Rica. They're like, Costa Rica? How'd you live on the island? We never saw the travelers that I saw coming to Manuel Antonio and coming to most places in Costa Rica 10, 15 years ago were cutting edge travelers, were people out front or on the cutting edge of ecotourism and travel. And they were okay going to this less known destination. There's a real profile shift, and you can see it if you go to any coastal town and just go out for dinner at night. And it's families in pastels and sundresses and golf club shirts. And there are people that used to go to Hilton Head and would only go to Hawaii or would go to the Caribbean. And we're starting to see a real change in Costa Rica being a sexy, but much more widely accepted destination. And so you're seeing this kind of buyer profile shift where we're moving into what I think is probably the next 20 years of tourism. And you're seeing hotels have to raise the bar. You're seeing real estate development having to raise the bar. And we're in that initial frenzy of, wait a minute, this is what's to come. And I got a lot of people, oh no, it's too expensive. I think it's the absolute opposite. I think Costa Rica is on the cusp of a 2-decade maturation. We were joking before we started. I've got teenagers, you get in this age in the life of your kids where when they're little, they're just so cute and perfect. You can forgive all the imperfections. And then the teenage years are tough. And some people want to write it off and go, what have I done wrong? But now that I've got my girls are now kind of getting ready to go off to college, you're seeing now them blossom into these young, and Costa Rica is in that same maturation. We are getting ready to become what I think is a world-class adult generation. We're young adult. We're not Hawaii. We're not the Caribbean. We're not Cabo San Lucas yet. But if you've been to those destinations, we're those destinations 30 years ago.
I think it's going to be done a little, probably a bit more sustainable, right? Meaning that Costa Rica's environmental probably restrictions here are we're not going to see tons of towers everywhere here, like in Hawaii and stuff.
And that's a good thing. I think that we've learned, in a lot of ways, and me being on the Central South Pacific, I think Costa Rica, it's too hard to permit. There's some of those obstacles to development that make it so hard. We both know of developments in Guanacaste over the country that have been on the books for 15 years that because they haven't been able to get off the ground. So yes, there's national things. And also there's the lessons learned. Yep. And the fact that Costa Rica's green brand is why they're back to pre-COVID levels so quickly is helping some people understand. Again, as someone that lives in the central and sells a lot on the Southern Pacific coast, we kind of felt like the bastard childs of Costa Rica. We didn't get a lot of tourism attention. We didn't get all the investment, but it's almost like a lot of the mistakes of higher density developments globally. And in some other pockets of Costa Rica, we feel like we've got a really good clean slate in the Southern zone now to say, this is what the next 20 years of development should be like. And there's buyers now who are willing to pay a premium for it not being overdeveloped.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. I agree. You know, I sometimes a lot of people ask me, I'm going back to Europe in 2 weeks, and they constantly ask me, Rich, are you moving back to Europe? And I'm like, why would I? Like, this is the new world, guys. Like, I really believe that we're in the new world here. It's a blank canvas that's ready to be built, that's ready to be painted, you know, whereas Europe is kind of the old world. Nothing new gets really built. It's kind of just, you know, same old. Down here is, again, I mean, it's a playground. I call it the Garden of Eden. You know, it really is. So I think some of those points you make there are great. Now I'm going to ask the last question because again, is you and I could talk all day, dude, about Costa Rica because we love it, you know. But I think I know the answer to this because you've really answered it. But if you had $500,000, you had to invest it into a business or real estate in Costa Rica, what would you do with it and why?
I'd invested in Manuel Antonio. Sorry for the selfless push there.
No, not at all.
But I just believe in the dynamics here. And in my marketplace, I'd be looking for land to build a home, or I'd be looking at some of the older distressed properties here to fix up. And well, I'm not going to disclose how much money I've got right now, but you asked me what I'm doing with my disposable income right now, and it was secure lot, design, build a house. I know that one of two things is going to happen. A, I can rent it and have a very good, sustainable. My worst case scenario is I build it and I'll probably make, and I'm lucky because I have a property management firm, but I can build it. And I think within a year or two of construction, I can end up having somewhere between a 5 and 7% return on my land and construction costs in an operational home that I can use and have friends and family use. That's my downside. And the upside is I can probably sell that with a 40 to 45% return based on where the market is right now in a gated community. And I look at, when I encourage people to invest, look at what the real estate guys in us want you to tell you about the best case scenario. Oh, fireworks and returns, and you're gonna get laid in it, and everything's great. Yep. Look at it from the worst case scenario. And I look at a place like Manuel Antonio, and if you create product here with new construction, new design, your worst case scenario is you own a appreciating rental asset in an incredibly high demand area. For that to be the worst case scenario, there ain't many investments that I would say that compare with that.
Well, and you also get to enjoy it as well. You know,
yes.
And what value does that have? That's the intangible that like sometimes is very difficult. I mean, if you want to put a number on it, figure out how much it would cost to rent it and throw that into what your return is as well, you know.
But you'll also get into a place like Manuel Antonio. I deal with this all the time. I'm building a home right now. My wife's already like, so how long are we going to get to live there? And I'm already in the battle of, honey, we can't afford to live there because there's a rental client that'll pay us more than what it's worth for us.
Yep.
Because we already have a place here. I get a lot of, I had a seller that a client of mine that just came down here and he just bought a house. And I said, he was here for 3 days in October. And he's looking for another investment property. He did just what he said. He bought an old distressed home.
Yep.
He spent a lot of money fixing it up. I think he bought a place like 265. It was 2 one-bedroom apartments, built a pool, didn't go over the top on finishes, but did a tasteful expansion and remodel. And I went to the house and I just told him, I said, look, can I list your house at $969? He goes, Scott, I only spent $300,000. And I'm like, well, guess what? There's a $350,000 upside. Can I list it? And he said, well, let me get in the car. If there's something else I can buy. And I'm out showing him properties to buy. But the interesting thing, he started his rental program in May. And I'll be clear, this isn't a front row ocean view house. Mountain view, partial Dominic Hall view, down the dirt road. So this, for anybody listening, this isn't, oh yeah, Scott's talking about a guy that had $8 million. No. He came in October. I said, when are you going to come back so we can look at some more real estate? Because he called me on a whim and I didn't get a chance to set up appointments. He said, Scott, I can't get back into my house. I think I might be back for 2 nights in March.
Wow.
And that is just if you have good product and you have a new home, not all homes here do that. A lot of the homes that have lower occupancy here, it's because they're tired. Owners that haven't put money into them, but that's a great place to be looking.
I agree. Well, Scott, it's been an amazing 50th episode, dude. As good as the first one. I really appreciate it. A lot of my guests, or a lot of the guests that listen to this, people that come on, always mention it. So I really appreciate you taking the time. Again, big celebration because it's number 50, and we'll definitely get you back on at number 100. Well, congrats to you on putting together such an informative series, man. I'm honored to be a part of it, man. You're a friend. Go get on that bike, have some good rides here. Regards to your family and everybody else listening. Keep following Richard. He's a smart guy and he takes care of his people. So I applaud that. Awesome. I appreciate it, buddy. You have a great day. You too. Bye. Hey guys, hope everyone enjoyed that podcast there with Scott. Very informative. Again, he knows a lot about real estate. He's been doing it for 26 years. He's worked all over this country. He lives in Manuel Antonio. He's built, he's developed, he's sold. I mean, Scott has done a lot of stuff and has worked with a lot of clients. I just want to give a shout out, an honorable shout out here to a charitable company called A Real Difference. That's A Real, REEL Difference. Some of the guys, Brandon and Justin down at Los Sueños Resort, these guys basically started during COVID, I suppose a charity where they would go out and fish and bring back actually meat or fish, like I suppose fish for the local community, helping out kind of families that were suffering or people that were suffering during that period of time. And their actual charity has kind of snowballed a lot of people making donations to A Real Difference. I'll put all the contact details in here, but you can basically, if you're going out fishing, you come back with meat. I say meat again, fish. Let these guys know. I'll put all the contact details in the description here. And again, if you'd like to make a donation, you can make a donation to them. Then with the donation, they take local kids out fishing as well. Again, catching fish and bringing it back to feed families. I think it's a great organization with great people, and it's really starting to kick off. So I wanted to give them an honorable mention. Remember, guys, to subscribe to this podcast. If you can, give us some great reviews. Actually, give us a review even if you don't like it. I suppose all news is good news, right? And again, stay in touch and feel free to put anything that you want in the comments, any questions, or email us at info@investingcostarica.com. That's info@investingcostarica.com. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.